If you use assessments to coach and develop managers and others in your organization, you might be interested in this package of 4 complementary assessments. These assessments, along with their companion training resources, can be used in a variety of professional training situations, but we think you'll be interested in how these assessments work together over an extended, highly flexible developmental continuum that is ideal for beginning supervisors and managers. Let's begin with DISC. DISC is the industry standard for a behavioral style assessment. The DISC profile identifies the new supervisor's predisposition to be D for dominant, I for interactive, S for steady, and C for cautious. DISC types tell supervisors their likely strengths and weaknesses in communicating with others, what their ideal job culture is, how they may tend to lead, what motivates them, and how they tend to work with other people. Knowing this information about oneself is a basic first step to having a deeper understanding of how to use social and emotional skills and traits to get your team doing their jobs as productively as possible. Now let's talk about the second assessment and training program, dealing with conflict. Dealing with conflict is such an important part of a new supervisor's or manager's job that it commands a special training segment all by itself. The Dealing with Conflict assessment tells each supervisor how they tend to solve conflicts from 5 different primary conflict styles. This assessment tells supervisors whether they might overuse or underuse the avoid style, or the accommodate style, or the compromise style, or the collaborate style, or the compete style. After completing Dealing with Conflict training, supervisors who are, for example, DISC D for dominant types might see a cross tendency to overuse the compete style in conflict situations. Or a DISC high I for interactive might see a tendency to compromise or accommodate too easily. The goal of Dealing with Conflict training is to promote a healthy, collaborative, problem-solving approach to conflict while recognizing when other conflict styles are also appropriate. The information supervisors learn from these 2 assessments together begins to enable them to understand how personality style can impact one's use of several very important competencies. This understanding builds a foundation for being vastly improved people managers. Now let's talk about the Strategic Leadership Type Indicator, or SLTI for short. As new supervisors, managers, or even project managers enter their 3rd year, they've had enough experience managing others to know that everyone they work with is a little different. They might sense some of the DISC and Dealing with Conflict styles in others that they now recognize in themselves. The SLTI tells supervisors how they tend to work with their direct reports, one-on-one. For example, do they tend to coach enough? Instruct too much? Over or under-delegate? Do they relate to their people? And do they know the appropriate time to use all of these strategies? With some experience under their belt, developing managers can learn to assess each of their direct reports in terms of their motivation and capability, and then determine how best to coach, relate, instruct, or delegate as the situation calls for. Again, SLTI learning builds on the earlier profile learning. The strong DISC D for dominant might see that they overuse the instruct strategy when they could more softly coach their direct report to self-direction and higher performance with less time commitment from the manager, who may in fact be micromanaging. The supervisor with a highly collaborative conflict style might be a natural coach, but might also tend to stay too involved with the direct report in their work and resist delegating and moving the direct report along in their own career. With SLTI now adding to their managerial expertise, early managers build more self-knowledge about the most productive ways to work with each individual, building their own judgment as they learn to rely on proven tactics they observe and experience to be successful, flexible managerial protocols. Once a supervisor or manager has established strong patterns of how they do things, for better or for worse, there is still more to learn that will further advance their leadership effectiveness. This is where the Performance Skills Leader, or PS Leader, comes in. In the real world, we know that not everyone is going to become the perfect leader, but that doesn't mean they still can't be reasonably effective and, most importantly, accept information that may point the way to improving their performance. PS Leader uses 360-degree feedback to collect compelling feedback on 24 research-proven leadership competencies. These competencies are grouped in 5 focus areas that span from time management to vision. PS Leader determines not only where a manager's strengths and weaknesses are, but what is most important in his or her unique position. Similar to the other assessments that began with DISC, managers will see for themselves how being a DISC I for interactive might affect their ratings on the interpersonal skills competencies in PS Leader. They might also see how their ability to collaborate effectively, or not so effectively, to solve conflict problems might affect a variety of PS Leader competencies. The SLTI might, for example, identify the predisposition of a manager to use the coaching style. PS Leader then would tell this manager exactly what behaviors within the coaching competency the manager is perceived to be expert and not so expert in. PS Leader feedback is a final developmental piece that prepares the early manager for cross-functional management assignments or potentially promotion to a more senior position. This presentation only scratches the surface of what these assessments tell managers and supervisors about themselves. Assessment reports and workshop materials for each assessment then enable the organization to individually coach or train in groups to improve these fundamental management skills. As a training consultant, you can use these assessments and their companion training technologies in a variety of ways to help your clients prepare for a more productive future.